Hey everybody, welcome back to Video Game Mesoterrating series on the MiSTer FPGA DE10 Nano project, more specifically in this instance, Jotego and his team's Neo Geo Pocket Color core. Last time we took a look at this core, it had released, but it definitely had a lot of issues in it. It was a beta and Jotego said as much, so no real big issue with that being a little flawed, but it has gotten improved last Friday, so we have a better, bigger Neo Geo Pocket Color core that we're going to go over today. Before we get too far involved though, to be a huge favor down below, hit like and subscribe, and ring that notification bell definitely helps us out. And if you feel so inclined and want to support the channel, got a Patreon link down below as well. But Neo Geo Pocket Color has a metric crap ton of fun games on the platform, and honestly it was not at all a success in the US, so most of you probably haven't played these. But leave me a comment down below and tell me if you ever had a Neo Geo Pocket Color back in the day. I would be curious. And right off the top, we're going to take a look at the last blade. This is the Pocket version, which adheres really close to the AES original as far as the characters and backgrounds and art style are concerned. And for the Neo Geo not having a ton of buttons, this thing controls absolutely insanely well as a portable fighting game, and obviously with that clicky stick on real hardware, you can't do any better than that. And the good thing is, in the newly updated Pocket Core, it is running a lot better, because last time we checked on this game, I don't believe we could even get into an actual fight. It is not perfect, it can break, and I will show you that in just a moment, but again, this is a marked improvement over what we last saw, and it's going to be great to get a finalized Neo Geo Pocket Color core in the future. And I can't recommend enough, pick up one of the Neo Geo CD pads, the modern ones with the clicky stick. It's going to be that much better playing these games. But you'll see here, as far as the graphics are concerned, everything on screen looks pretty correct here. Now, I am not an expert at this game as far as the visual look compared to something like the AES or MVS, so there could be something that isn't perfectly working. If you see anything you don't like, leave me a comment down below. But as far as I can tell, on the motion, on the cadence, on everything else, it just seems to be doing what real hardware should do. And you'll see here the special moves can be pulled off, and everything does operate like a fighting game, and that is awesome. And again, this is something that didn't even work on the previous core. I'm sure Neo Geo Pocket Color isn't the easiest thing to make, and there's definitely going to still be iterations on this to get more games running, because for every game like the last blade that is working here, something like Samurai Showdown just isn't going to work whatsoever, but I will show you that in just a bit in the video. But again, this looks so good coming out with HDMI, and unless you have a Neo Geo Pocket Color with a modded screen, this is going to be about the best it's ever going to look. Like I said a few moments ago, this game can have problems and things do seem to break. In just a moment, I'm going to change the shot out and you're going to see what happens. But this match right here, everything is working, the characters are moving around, everything seems to be doing exactly what it would expect it to do. But as we move a little bit further in, suddenly the character just kind of breaks its logic a little bit. This seems like it's doing something that the game wouldn't do. And if you just stand here, nothing ever really happens. That could just be a bug in the game, but it is one thing I did notice. So you leave me a comment down below and tell me what you think is going on here, because again, nothing really is happening. Now moving over to Neo Turf Masters, the best golf game ever made on the AES, and one of the best golf games portable for Neo Geo Pocket Color. Last time we took a look at this game, you could hit the ball, but you couldn't really move left and right, so you'd only be able to hit the ball in whatever direction the game defaulted to. Now that has definitely improved, because you have full control over your direction and aim here, so you're going to have a much better time actually playing this game, and that is going to be important. And as far as the capture on this, as far as all of the footage, everything else, again, it's just Neo Turf Masters on the Neo Geo Pocket Color. Can't really find much at all to actually fault about it. But again, if you see anything you're not particularly fond of, just let me know down below, because you guys have a lot more eyes than I do, and you can focus a lot harder than I can, because I need to do the voiceover as well. But this is an awesome game. However you play Neo Turf Masters, you absolutely have to check it out. It is one of those classic games. You think you're going to play for 10 minutes and you end up playing for an hour. It absolutely hooks you in. You get addicted to it, and it's just one of those time sinks that you have so much fun. And the audio is definitely improved as well. 45-second sound sample of Neo Turf Masters, and I'll come back and show you more games that work better. You can definitely hear there's a little bit of weirdness in the sound effect, but the music sounds good, and honestly, this being a beta work in progress core, that is to be expected. I know you guys love seeing how these cores get made, and sometimes the issues that they have are more interesting than when everything just works, because it is something I can let you listen to or let you look at and show you what is working correctly and what is having a little bit of an issue right now. If we move over to Metal Slug, last time I showed you this introductory sequence, the colors were completely incorrect. Now these colors are doing exactly what they should as far as the lookup table is concerned, pulling the right colors. The only difference is now you have this semi-opaque white screen over the Metal Slug Second Mission logo. When you actually get into the game, it looks really good, and that was the thing. The last core, there was definitely some issues in the sprites, there was some corruption, just a little bit of visual weirdness going on, so this has definitely made a huge difference. But of course, not every single game is going to see improvements, and that's probably because every single game is using the hardware slightly differently, and there could be some call to the hardware or some other little feature that either isn't implemented yet or has a bug in its implementation, because you have to remember the architecture on pretty much every piece of hardware, not every single mode or function is going to be used by every single game on it. So something like Metal Slug Second Mission here is going to work, but again, something like Samurai Showdown just refuses to get into the game, and that's probably because it's looking for some instruction on the CPU that either isn't implemented yet at all or is implemented in a bugged state. But if you want to play Second Mission today, you can totally do so. It does seem to be working, and big thanks to Andy D for helping with the captures as well on this one. And like 3 years ago, I did a retrospective on the entire Metal Slug franchise, and I would say the ones on Pocket are a very fun time. They're never going to live up to what was on the AES and MVS, but they are definitely worth playing, especially from a portable perspective. They are just a ton of fun. And again, on the control scheme, on the visuals in-game, there might be a little bit of glitchiness in the sprite every once in a while, but otherwise, this is like 95% of what you would expect it to play like if you had real Neo Geo Pocket hardware in front of you. And I do love some of the bosses in this fight as well. This gigantic train here, just a fun time. And if you've never played these before, definitely do check them out. I have not seen anybody finish this yet, but that doesn't mean they haven't done it. It just means I haven't heard of it, and this game isn't that long, so if you want to try to get to the credits right now, give it a shot, and you leave me a comment down below and tell me if you can beat it or not. I would be very curious. Now moving on to another game that didn't work last core, at least for me, and now does, is going to be Cotton. You'll see there's a little bit of sprite weirdness in that candy thought bubble right there, but otherwise, again, it just seems to look really good. And the biggest difference in this new core outside of games that work that didn't used to work are that a lot of the colors are what they should be, because in the last preview video, I feel like almost every single game had some sort of color issue where the colors were the complete wrong values showing up on screen. And of course, a lot of what these games are is the art style and the color used, so it is great to see them now working the way they should. And this game has an awesome soundtrack, especially on Pocket, so I'll let you listen in just a moment. But again, it's fun to get a game that's working that didn't work in the previous core, and this is definitely one of my favorites on Neo Geo Pocket Color. So here you go, 30 seconds of the Cotton soundtrack, and I'll be back because I got a couple more games that work now to show you, but enjoy. Now that sounds great, and it doesn't have any of the sound effect distortion that we just heard in the Neo Turf Masters version on Pocket, but otherwise, again, this is a ton of fun, and it is a really faithful recreation of the arcade version of Cotton, except on the Neo Geo Pocket Color, and it definitely, I would consider at least to be one of the Pocket's best games. And going through all of the footage, going through everything here, taking a look at the visuals, taking a look at the audio, there doesn't seem to be any problems in this one. All of the sprites are where they need to be, all of the music is good. I didn't see any corruption in any of the graphics the entire time, outside of that small strip of pixels that's flashing at the bottom in that experience bar right there, and that only happens every once in a while, so it'll definitely not interrupt any of your gameplay experience. It is just a small graphical aberration, and that's the thing about playing these work in progress cores. You might notice something a little bit strange, but otherwise you can have fun. So I would say Cotton's near to complete here as far as what it would do if you were using real hardware in your hand, and it's definitely a fun game. Can't recommend it enough, so definitely check it out. out. Now moving on to Samurai Showdown, this is a game that I said again still just will not boot. So there are still some titles in the Neo Geo Pocket Color library that you're not going to get to work, or maybe you're going to get lucky because sometimes these things like to do different things depending on when you launch them. Kind of an RNG roll of the dice, as it were. You'll see here we've gone to a black screen after that little attract sequence plays. This isn't real time, I didn't cut it. So we're going to go back into the menu and relaunch the game and see what else is going to happen. But basically the execution on the CPU seems to have halted here, and you end up with a big black screen. So we'll go in, we'll reset the core in real time, and you're going to see what it's going to look like here. Again, it just didn't seem to want to work. So let's reload the ROM and see what happens the next time. Suddenly you get the menu screen where you need to select in language as well as set all of the different software aspects for the Neo Geo Pocket Color. And this is something that didn't work when we just reset the core. Then you're going to get back into the Neo Geo Pocket splash screen, and you're going to get back into that, and you're going to see that you can go to one player mode now. Unfortunately, if we actually try to get into this again, we're just going to be met with another black screen and it won't go any further. Moving on to a game that has seen a ton of improvements though, and is my hidden gem favorite on the platform, Dark Arms Beast Busters. This is a pivot on the Beast Busters Light Gun arcade formula, and again, last time we took a look at this game, the introductory sequence had a lot of incorrect colors, and it had some sprite corruption as well. Now, when I have played this game a ton, because it is a lot of fun, I couldn't see anything that made me think it was doing anything other than what real hardware would do. The visuals are good, the sprites are there, all of the controls are intact, all of the gameplay is here, and it's just as much fun on MiSTer FPGA as it is if I play on a Neo Geo Pocket Color. And if you've never played this game before, definitely check it out. It did get an English release back in the day, so there is a full English ROM for it available, and it's one of those games that is just so unique, so fun, and so SNK. It definitely is something I think everyone should experience. And because it is October, the spooky month, what better time to do it? And this game has some great music as well, and it sounds absolutely spectacular coming out of the core. So one last sound sample, another 30 seconds, listen to some Dark Arm Beast Busters, and I'll be right back to show you one more game that's working on the core. The music is just great in that game, and it sounds spectacular, and I apparently lied to you and myself. This was the last game in my timeline, so this is what we're going to close out on. But again, this is just working how I would expect. This isn't the longest game in the world, but it's not the shortest, and I can't promise that 2 minutes after this capture ended, the game wouldn't randomly freeze on you. So you shouldn't go into any single Neo Geo Pocket Color game on the current core and expect to be able to complete it, but you should expect to have some fun, and you probably could complete most of them. But of course, I do not have the time to beat every single one of these games to tell you whether or not they're fully beatable in the capture. But again, this game is just an absolute hidden gem. It's perfect for October, and if there's one game on the Neo Geo Pocket Color you play because I told you to, definitely make it this one. It is just awesome, and you'll see that there was a tiny bit of sprite corruption when my sprite got hit that wouldn't show up on the Neo Geo Pocket Color hardware in and of itself. But if I didn't point it out to you, you probably would have never even noticed. And that is the good thing about the core. It's definitely getting more mature, it's working better, and you're able to play and experience a lot more games than you were the last time around. But if you know of any games that don't work that I haven't tested, leave me a comment down below because I would be curious. While the library isn't expansive, it is definitely something that has enough games where I haven't hit every single one of them yet. But that's the current situation with the current Neo Geo Pocket Color core as of Friday. Jotego and his team have updated it. It's working better, looking better, sounding better, and some games have some control fixes as well. But it is not a perfect experience, so just be aware of that before you go in. It isn't going to be one-to-one with real hardware yet. But short of that, if you have any questions or comments, leave them down below. We're done. I'm going to go play some more Dark Arms, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.